So a lot of things going on Be Free right now, and finally we have some, well, almost sunshine. It's at least better. It's been really windy and crazy amount of rain. And as you can see, I'm sharing something not many do. I'm transparent about the reality, trying to manage without energy on demand. I've now shut down almost everything to save power. Basically only running one of my fridges and even shut down the one freezer to have enough power editing videos on my Mac. With my solar system I can harvest 6 to 7 kilowatt on a good day, and my additional power storage of 17 kilowatt I can store a vast amount of energy. Still, I'm at the borderline for being forced to start up my generator. But at the end of this day, with a bit sun and shutdowns, I managed to crawl up to 30% on my storage. And I'm now sitting on 2 mooring balls that thankfully from the friendly people at Setting and Yacht Service have offered me. So I'm really happy, because the seasonal weather here now can be pretty brutal. Also, being inside a mooring field, I don't need to spend energy on lighting up Be Free like a Christmas tree. So additional 10 amps saved throughout the night. And it's always fun when you are at anchorage or like now sitting on mooring balls to observe what kind of boats around you. It's 3 or 4 of this JJ design, and we are even 2 identical like mine, the Far Design 55. So yeah, this is interesting to see so many Bavarias. And if you watch many YouTube channels, you get the impression that it's only old boats like that that's going around the world, but actually things have changed a lot over the last years. And it's a vast amount of catamarans, naturally enough, like this. Yeah, it's someone down there. There is a lagoon. It's a Fontaine Pajot, another Fontaine Pajot, a lagoon, a custom built one. So yeah, it is for sure catamarans are taking over the cruising ground. That's at least how it looks like. Also, an interesting fact is on long distance sailing, and I've been in so many very remote places, it's a funny observation that Bavaria Yachts is actually dominating the anchorage. And that boat, that's quite funny. They are actually from my hometown. Not only Norwegians, but from the same place. And right now it's the brand number 1 here at this anchorage. It's 5 Bavarias and even one same size as Be Free. So that's pretty fascinating. But this video is not about all the cruising boats. It's about Be Free, a Bavaria 55 cruiser. And I'm gonna share with you the things I'm not so happy with, and I'm gonna also share things I am happy with. It do take time to really know every single part of a yacht, but being on my 7th years with 2/3 of the world behind me and more miles a year than average sailor do their lifetime, I feel qualified to share my opinions in good and bad, and maybe even help you to understand modern yachts and where they do cut corners. Join me as I'm sailing around the world on Be Free, a Bavaria 55 cruiser. I'm not sponsored by Bavaria. I have not even got as much as a coffee mug with their logo on. The only reason why I have this in my intro is because that's my most frequent asked question on this channel. How big is your boat and what make and model is she? Be Free is a Far Design 55 cruiser from the 2012 range, and mine is a private-owned private version that was the flagship of Bavaria. But now she's so old I'm probably soon allowed to call her a blue water yacht. Thankfully, B3 does not look this bad, but it's almost how it feels after long stays in remote places with no easy access to maintenance facilities. Rainfall of ashes from volcanic eruptions does not help either. But I'm on it, she will shine bright as a diamond again before I put my sails back on and again enjoy what I love the most. Endless oceans ahead, cruising into one more beautiful sunset than the other. It's a smooth sail and we're making good progress. Good progress on B3 is average about 10 knots over ground. But for now, this is just something I'm working hard to come back to. So I'm on my way to Seragan Yacht Service to discuss if it's possible to have mooring bolts. A few years ago I upgraded to this beast of an anchor that weighs in at 57 kilos and have never failed me. And for the size of B3, this is what I have found to be the perfect size of anchor. This is my second upgrade, because my first one was a Rockna. I'm not saying the Rockna is not good anchor, it can be a combination that it still was not big enough. My point is, mass production yachts comes with only a toy of an anchor, an equally undersized windlass and chain. Meaning it's a huge contrast to what this yacht and most of the similar yachts comes with as standard. The reason is as obvious as it's easy to forget. The vast majority of sailors are not world cruisers. So it's not standard equipped for this purpose, and that's not because this yacht can't handle it, only because it makes the yacht $10,000 to $15,000 cheaper. So when their target audience is holiday sailors, it's natural that the rare sailors like me actually doing a full circle pays for the needed upgrades on my own. Like having an oversized anchor with all the extra costs this brings. Some really heavy weather coming. It is monsoon season, so yeah, I think it's time to move from being at anchor to staying on mooring bolts. It's always a trade-off in the science, and what makes a yacht super fun and fast to sail makes it not so fun to ride out a storm at anchor. And for B3, this means she swings and sails a lot at anchor when it's strong wind, hence the big and heavy anchor. It's not so easy to understand or to see only on a photo or video, just like how people often misjudge waves on my channel. But to give you a better idea, I can draw a person in to illustrate this better. When I sailed into this anchorage, I did not use my engine. I dropped my anchor as far out as possible and close to the reefs. But the seasonal weather have now changed the wind direction, and the strong monsoon storms will come from west-northwest, meaning my safety margin if dragging is not longer on my side. Also, the seafloor here I don't know much about, besides it's full of plastic and garbage. So even with my beast of an anchor, I have no guarantee it will hold. So a double mooring as close to the mangroves as possible for best protection was my decision. And this was what Seragan Yacht Service could help me with. Yes.
Una video, Thomas YouTube, you know.
Yeah. So I need to get my hands on some thicker lines. Well, it's nice to have someone helping me to source the right places and get the right lines I need. As a full-time sailor, things like this is nothing you play around with. And on B3 the pullers has backing plates in metal, meaning they are very strong, and I have even ride off hurricanes before. So I know the rope thickness I need for my yacht to be safe, and that's 28 millimeters. But let's start to dig a bit deeper how I understand modern production yachts and where they have cut corners and costs on my Bavaria. Most manufacturers are building yachts much smarter today, and this method cuts costs compared to older methods. And knowing they mostly follow the same standards and even use many of the same products like engines, plumbing, electrical, deck fittings and hardware, it can be a challenge to understand the difference and where they cut corners to save money. Before I leave the anchor and chain part, one of the things that annoyed me a lot is the chain locker. Such big hatch should have 2 locks to close it better. Also, this gasket solution is cheap and far from good enough, meaning it's not waterproof. There are two holes for draining water out of the bilge. One sits higher than the other, and the purpose for this is if the lowest one is clogged, the one sitting higher will do the job. Many misunderstand this and believe it's not precision work, but the engineering behind this is good. What's not so good is the chain sits directly in the bilge, and when sailing it obviously will come salt water in here, meaning a lot of your chain will constantly sit in salt water, and this shortens the lifespan of your anchor chain. So a bit cheap solution in my opinion, as it would be much better to have a platform with a drain. This is a cost-effective way for the manufacturer, expensive in the long run for the owner. The thickness of the hull here is massive and not what you would expect on a mass production yacht. Size of the watertight bulkhead in the front housing a storage and anchor chain locker is also quite big, meaning in worst case I can lose a big part of the boat without sinking. Given the thickness of this hull, here losing a big chunk of the bow is unlikely, even if hitting a container. Bavaria could for sure utilize the space more even here. The bed however would been raised like you see on other yachts, and forward locker would been sacrificed. End of the day I believe their design is better and even feel safer knowing the forward compartment is so huge. And different brands cuts corners on different places. To me the grid structure, hull thickness and number of keel bolts was important. And Bavaria was the only mass production yacht that could meet my demands on this, having fiberglass structure and double amounts of keel bolts, only to mention a few things. Also using high quality rudders and bearings, so my conclusion was at least they do not cut corners on the important stuff. So it's fair to say the trouble with my steering came as a big surprise. However, the fact is that Bavaria had ordered beefed up version from Lemar, and why mine did not have this I still don't know. Here it is. It's quite beefy. It's steel. So it's part of the mechanical steering, and it sits inside the pedestal and connected to the quadrant in the bottom and to the gear quadrant that failed. As a tiny detail, I've had to weld new pins on both my helm locks. This is not a big thing, but it adds up on all the things I've had to fix. And as a red line through all my years with small and big problems, most of the time it has been on products with a Lemar logo on. The mechanical steering has in the bigger picture been good. Also to correct some misinformation on other channels, this has full redundancy. There is no chain, dynamo or cables here. Everything is mechanical and you can detach one helm and still have full control. Same goes for the rudders, you can disconnect one and only steer with the other. The first problem in relation to this was my autopilot failing in the Atlantic. Also this from Lemar, and the part that failed was back then a $3,500 electric drive gearbox. It was for a long time ongoing project with setbacks before I finally succeeded in a solution that works flawlessly. Many have suggested I need a wind vane, but this is only based on not having enough information, and to begin with my yacht is too fast and too heavy, only to scratch the surface. During my experience with different configurations and hydraulics, one of the ongoing problem was the pin did not last longer than a few thousand miles, which led me to rethink and redesign the entire project, moving the stress away from the pin and spread it equally out from the massive metal beam connecting the two lower quadrants. In all these years, this has been the biggest challenge and problem I have had. And even on quite important stuff, especially for someone mostly sailing solo. Today I have redundancy also here, but one of the hydraulic pumps needs a service, and maybe even to be replaced after my emergency repair in the South Pacific last year. It might be all the try and fails that has led to it being worn out, because the Lecomble and Schmidt hydraulics are hands down some of the best you can get. As a solo sailor I need my autopilots and I need redundancy. But let's take one step back again, because even more high-end brands nowadays have adopted this production method, as it saves time. The volume in production line of course gives mass production yachts some advantages in terms of experience, not to forget better and more competitive price for all the bits and pieces due to much higher volume. And again, Lemar has been a bit disappointing. The flush hatches holds a very poor quality, and I've been forced to make emergency solutions a few times. Lemar have not only delivered poor quality, but extremely poor industrial design. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to see the obvious flaws with this design. Lack of support outside the frame, combined with carved out channel for the tube gasket, makes it very fragile and easy to break. A person stepping on the corner is enough. The new hatches from the same line comes now with rubber support under the corners that will flex similar to the gasket, avoiding stress to the corners. All the windows or portholes are also from Lemar, and the frames needs a touch-up now and then. Naturally enough, because paint on aluminium has never been a good solution. Not a very big problem, but it adds to the maintenance outside and even inside as well. I've also experienced a leak in one window and found it to be Lemar to blame and not in the insulation from Bavaria. The leak was in the glue between the Lexan and aluminium frame. I had to take the frame out and reseal everything. In fact, the only thing with the Lemar logo on that has been good all these years are the winches. They could be a bit bigger in size, so here Bavaria have saved money keeping it to a minimum. It's not a problem when using electric, it's when using them manually you will feel the difference. So I don't have my electric winch systems up running yet, so that's why I brought this crew on board. One of the first places you will notice a significant difference between a mass production yacht and a custom built high-end yacht today is the interior, materials and how it's built. Not only is these types of floorboards of poor quality, they are not even marine graded. So to be a bit rude towards Bavaria, I could say that floors like this are suitable for a motorhome but not on board a yacht. I can add one major challenge with this. It's not enough hatches giving you access to the bilge for inspection, or even drying up if you for some reason have had water ingress. Something that's not a big problem, only a fact, and even a contributing reason for keeping the cost down is the interior is model based and pretty simple. It's basically one size fits all. So one of the places they obviously cut corners when they make a mass production yacht like this to save money is to just throw in a shelf instead of making custom built cabinets. So on a custom built yacht, they might utilize this space much better. And of course, just throwing in this shelf is so much cheaper and fast. So that's, I mean, you could be annoyed by it, or you can look at it as, well, it's nice modern touch. And that's actually most people that come and visit my boat is like, whoa, it's so modern and so open and so light, and yeah, because there is no cabinets. Lots of money saved only there. But it doesn't mean I don't have any cabinets. I have here in the same cabin. It's from down here and all the way up here, and also a hanging locker, which is just a mess at the moment, but still it's a hanging locker. But this is just my aft cabin. Again, nothing wrong or any problem, only pointing out how they cut corners, making it cheaper. And for sure also here just like this shelf and no lockers. And here they could have a lot of lockers, so you could have more storage. But then again, it also gives a very modern and light feeling, so some like it for the design and some understand that this is just a very cheap way to build a boat. Also, when you see the wall here, so it's two big cabinets here, and it's basically because you can have this boat in several different models, like in 4 cabin version and 5 cabin version. Also here, this is probably the same they use in other models, and if you take this and measure, so the wall inside here stops here. So that's pretty much, let's see. So they don't even utilize half of the space. But then again, that would cost more money. So that's what you will find on a mass production yacht. A lot of wasted space. So behind the sofa I have already made this to utilize the space a bit better. I'm not gonna walk you through every cabinet here. I guess you already get my point. Making things model based is super efficient, and I believe this is contributing a lot to keep the costs down. Many years ago I made this joke, if you buy a mass production yacht, it's basically buying a half fabricated boat. And in some parts it's true, and it's all these small details that they just leave to you. And one of them is the doors. All the doors is lacking these things to that's things I added, and that's very powerful magnet, so to keep the door like this open in a position so it won't fly. And this yacht have 10 doors in total, meaning Bavaria saved at least $1,500 US. So what I was making, when I planned to make this video, I was like really have to twist my brain to find things that annoys me about this boat, because well, I guess that's a good sign. It's not that many things that annoys me. It's small things here and there. But one thing that's really, again, like, what did you think here? And that's the staircase down into the boat. I mean, it's such a beautiful boat and so many brilliant solutions on this boat. But you see, this staircase is high. It's many floor steps. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like, not like it's like this little. What did I do? Yeah, they throw in 3 small hinges here, and that's it. Can you imagine the weight of this staircase? So that's actually one of very few things that annoys me when I'm out sailing, because of course the gravity, the weight, and the movement makes this staircase move a little bit, not much, but it's enough to make this squeaking sound. That's so annoying. I hate sounds on board a boat. It should be quiet. One of the things I love the most with this yacht is the speed. The only challenge sometimes, she goes too fast, and you will have a much more comfortable sail in choppy seas if slowing down a bit. The modern hull design makes her wanna sail fast. Against the waves on a close reach, the landing can be hard, especially compared to old school, more V-shaped hull. But if you slow down, you will be just as comfortable. It's basically wrong to compare 12 to 14 knots against the waves versus 6 to 7 knots on a different hull. A wide cockpit is not a problem that some try to create. But some cheap solutions are a bit annoying also here, and we can start with the aft bench that's sadly a bit typical Bavaria. On this boat I also have this bench aft here that is possible to slide and change position. I can even remove it, which I really enjoy, especially when I have the be-free parties on board, and this aft section of my boat basically turns into a dance floor. Then it's very nice to be able to remove this to free some space. But then again, it's a mass production yacht, and sometimes these solutions are not so thought through, or they have just basically taken a shortcut. Also here I think they did a shortcut. It works, but it's not perfect. One of the problems is when I'm heeling over, this bench moves sideways because it's very heavy, very solid built, and then they just add this really ridiculous small locks. That's, yeah, it's just not good enough. So this bench moves on this slide here, and this is what locks it under here. And yeah, of course this is not good enough. Same poor solution on what's used to be a pull-out sofa for 2. But I was so tired of it flying through the air and have converted it into a TV bench that's fixed properly instead. A big and functional galley with kitchen island that you actually can compare with many catamarans has truly been appreciated. This yacht have really delivered on the live aboard aspects. But let's jump back to the wide and big cockpit. That's where you spend the most of the time. Yeah, cheers. Like it?
I do. It's really good. Not just saying that for the camera. It's really good. Thank you.
Well, otherwise you just have to drive home.
Luckily my boat is like right there, right? And I provisioned today, so I actually have food on the boat.
Okay. Even kids loves this cockpit when I meet families, and often B3 are turned into a kindergarten. I have only good things to say about wide cockpits, and as the old saying is, from kids and drunk people you get the truth. As a big bonus, the wide hull even allows me to have my hammock in the right direction, something that you normally only can do on a catamaran. I'm a bit lazy today, but I mean, seriously, look at this. It's awesome! Cheers! A while ago I made a video about the things I held important when I was looking for boat, and I was twin rudder, really wide body and modern design, but also dinghy garage and a big swim platform. That was some important criteria, and that's beside the obvious. I wanted a boat that could perform well. I like to sail, so that's why I was looking for a twin rudder and a deep draft. And yeah, talking about swimming platform and my dinghy garage. My gigantic swimming platform is my happy place, and this concept has truly delivered exactly what I was hoping for. And of course, every time I'm together with older sailors, the wide big cockpit and huge swimming platform makes B3 the center of the action. But it do come with some trade-offs and challenges as well. I believe a 55 is borderline too small yacht to have this feature. Having the dinghy stowed away while sailing is just perfect. Also out of sight for opportunists, and even protecting my dinghy from the sun when not in use. But it do take lots of space from the aft cabins. For me this is not a big problem, but the reality, even a 45-footer have bigger aft cabins. It's also a bit fragile solution because the platform sits very close to the water, meaning wakes from other boats can destroy your lifting arms. And replacement of this is expensive, and I also had some trouble with the computer. On the positive side, it has protected me against pirates and thieves several times, as it's not easy to enter B3 when it's closed. If you look away from some cheap components here and there, the only place I found where it's legit to put the finger on building quality or lack of pride from a worker is here. For a long time I had tried to locate a tiny leak, as a yacht should always be dry inside. But here I finally found it, and this was not exactly impressive. Fixing this was a bit of work, but the result turned out perfect. And I have now sailed with this in 2 years without any more leaks. I still believe a tender garage is worth it, and most likely I would buy it again if I was looking for a new monohull today. But the truth is, if money was no problem, I would probably choose a catamaran, because I have met so many cruisers with really fast and amazing catamarans that sails really well. That's why I also believe sailors that have discovered the qualities of a wide cockpit in catamaran but can't afford it, a monohull with a wide cockpit is a really good compromise. When I bought B3, it was only 2 owners versions for sale globally, one with teak and one without. I really did not want this, but for me it was a compromise. And this has been quite some work trying to keep up and fix things, especially in remote places. Only 2 episodes ago I made a video explaining how to understand modern teak decks and what to expect. I really did not want this, but again I bought B3 on the second-hand market, and this one ticked off so many boxes. Not only the biggest engine, but also a Yanmar. And this have been absolutely flawless in all these years. I've done a full refit on the rigging and even some upgrades. But if you look away from this and also what's considered as normal maintenance, it has not really been much to complain about. It will always be things with a yacht, no matter the brand. but all the storms and brutal weather I have experienced, I can only say she's much better than many like to think. Making comments on my channel like this, not that intelligent. In the world of clickbait misinformation and lack of knowledge and understanding, it's easy to understand how myths are created and misunderstandings being repeated.
It's just because they can make them cheaper because they don't have to build them as strong.
When replacing my through hulls, I had to use extra long due to the thickness of this hull. Guess many would be surprised knowing this fact. My Fisher Panda generator now works perfect, but it has been an absolute nightmare and contributed to the biggest amount of trouble. Second most is basically anything with the Lumar logo on. And of course, here and there you discover some stupid products like the navigation lights that I replaced with waterproof and marine graded cables. Only problem I have had with the rigging is the halyard fittings for the gennaker. This was failing a lot until I rebuilt it and made it stronger, with parts shipped from Selden that I knew exactly what I needed. They shipped it directly to me in Panama because there was no rigging companies nearby. Like any sailor over time, also I have had my share of problems with toilets and water pumps, and even leaking PEX fittings in more recent time. To some this might sound like a lot, but spread out over the time and nautical miles sailed, I don't think this is much. I know it can be hard to separate what's normal wear and tear, upgrades and regular maintenance from what's failing due to poor quality. I do know some brands squeeze the hull thickness below what's in my opinion good. But this video is about my Bavaria, model and make, and not to convince you that my yacht is better than other brands. End of the day, I know my yacht could cost between $200,000 and $300,000 more without being more blue water worthy or even safer. So after all these years actually sailing my Bavaria through some weather you would not believe exists, all I can say, these statements are 100% false. As a final, I can reveal owning a yacht this size is not cheap. Only haul out and new anti-fouling will set you back between $5,000 and $6,000 every second year. I have no plans on selling Be Free anytime soon, as I'm actually quite happy with her and she suits my needs and preferences well. But this doesn't mean the same yacht will match your needs, and also remember, a 40-footer of the same brand might give you a totally different experience due to many factors. I hope you enjoyed this video as a summary of good and bad with Be Free over all these years. It is possible I forgot something, but I've tried to deliver it as unfiltered and honest as possible.